What if you woke up tomorrow and your own body suddenly weighed twice as much? Not because you gained weight overnight, not because the earth grew larger, but because gravity itself had quietly become twice as strong. You stand up from your bed and your legs immediately buckle. Breathing feels strangely difficult. Even lifting your phone requires effort. At first, it seems like you're simply exhausted, but within minutes, you realize something impossible has happened. The force that has held every ocean, mountain, and living creature to Earth for billions of years has suddenly doubled. The question isn't whether life would become harder. The real question is, how much of our world would survive? Gravity is one of those invisible forces we almost never think about. It doesn't flash across the sky or announce its presence. Yet every movement you make depends on it. Every jump, every step, every heartbeat has evolved under exactly one level of gravity. Double that force, and the rules your body has always relied on disappear instantly. Nothing changes visually. The sky looks the same, buildings remain standing, but almost everything around you has become far heavier than it was only a second ago. Your own body is the first thing you notice. If you weigh 70 kilograms, you still have the same amount of mass, but the force pulling you toward the ground now feels as if you weigh 140. Standing up becomes an exhausting task. Running is almost impossible. Every movement demands far more energy than your muscles were designed to produce. Simply climbing a flight of stairs suddenly feels like carrying another person on your back. Surprisingly, healthy adults wouldn't collapse immediately. Human muscles are stronger than we usually need them to be. Many people could still walk, especially after the initial shock. But everything would feel slower. Every step would be deliberate. Every object would seem strangely stubborn to lift. Even holding your arms in front of you for more than a few seconds would quickly become exhausting. The greatest challenge wouldn't begin with your muscles. It would begin inside your chest. Your heart has spent your entire life pumping blood against Earth's current gravity. Now, it must push that same blood through your body while fighting twice the downward force. Blood would naturally pool more toward your lower body, forcing the heart to work dramatically harder just to keep your brain supplied with oxygen. Some people might experience dizziness within minutes. Others could faint simply by standing too quickly. Those with heart disease or high blood pressure would face immediate danger. Hospitals would fill faster than anyone could explain why. Doctors would see symptoms unlike any disaster they had ever prepared for, because the problem wouldn't be a virus, a toxin, or an earthquake. It would be the planet itself. Animals would struggle just as much. Small insects might continue almost normally because of their tiny size, but larger creatures would face enormous challenges. A horse would suddenly support twice the load on its legs. An elephant, already living close to the structural limits of its own skeleton, could suffer devastating injuries simply from standing. Nature has always balanced strength against weight, double gravity, and that balance begins to break. Birds would face one of the fastest crises. Flight depends on producing enough lift to overcome gravity. Suddenly, every wing beat must generate twice the force. Many birds simply wouldn't be able to take off. Others already flying when gravity changed could rapidly lose altitude, searching desperately for places to land before exhaustion overcame them. Within hours, skies that once felt alive would become strangely empty. The oceans, however, would remain surprisingly calm at first. Water doesn't suddenly disappear. It simply becomes heavier, just like everything else. But waves would behave differently. Ocean currents would gradually change as gravity altered the balance between wind, water, and Earth's rotation. Over time, coastlines could experience patterns unlike anything recorded in human history. Buildings would initially appear untouched. Most modern structures already include generous safety margins. Bridges, skyscrapers, and homes are designed to withstand loads far greater than normal daily conditions. But those safety margins were never intended for a permanent doubling of gravity. Tiny stresses would begin accumulating everywhere, silently pushing materials closer to their breaking point. Some older bridges might begin showing dangerous deformations. Concrete would crack more easily. Steel cables would stretch under loads they were never meant to carry continuously. Elevators would require more power. Cranes could no longer lift their rated loads. Construction projects around the world would stop almost immediately as engineers tried to understand whether the structures surrounding them were still safe. Transportation would become another enormous challenge. Every car would effectively become twice as heavy. Engines could still run, but acceleration would feel painfully slow. Braking distances would increase. Tires would wear out much faster. Fuel consumption would rise dramatically because every journey now requires far more energy than before. Airplanes would face an even bigger problem. Commercial aircraft are carefully engineered around Earth's gravity. Doubling it doesn't automatically make flight impossible, but it dramatically increases the lift required to leave the ground. Many passenger jets would no longer have enough performance to safely take off from existing runways. Airports across the world would quickly fall silent as fleets remained grounded. Space exploration would come to an almost immediate halt. Every rocket launched from Earth already fights one of the greatest engineering challenges imaginable. Doubling gravity would require vastly more fuel just to reach orbit. Many existing rockets simply couldn't escape Earth's pull anymore. Overnight, our path to space would become far steeper than humanity has ever experienced. Surprisingly, Earth's atmosphere wouldn't suddenly disappear. Gravity actually holds the atmosphere in place, so a stronger gravitational pull would keep gases even more tightly bound to the planet. You would still have air to breathe. In fact, air pressure near sea level would gradually increase, creating another layer of stress on both human bodies and weather systems. Weather itself would slowly begin changing. Clouds would form differently. Rain would fall faster. Storm systems could behave in unfamiliar ways as the atmosphere adjusted to its new balance. None of these changes would happen instantly, but over weeks and months, Earth's climate would slowly become a world that no human civilization had ever known. Mountains would also begin changing, although far more slowly. Gravity is constantly trying to pull every mountain downward. Earth's crust resists that force through the strength of rock. Double gravity, and erosion becomes more aggressive. Landslides become more frequent. Cliffs that stood safely for thousands of years could suddenly become unstable. Deep underground, the pressure inside Earth's crust would also increase. Scientists aren't certain exactly how every geological system would respond, making this part speculative, but stronger gravity could alter stresses along tectonic faults, potentially changing the frequency and distribution of earthquakes over long periods. It wouldn't necessarily mean constant global disasters, but the planet's internal balance would no longer be the one that shaped Earth's history. Perhaps the strangest realization comes much later. Humanity would adapt. We always do. New buildings would be designed differently. Vehicles would become lighter. Machines would perform the heavy work our bodies no longer could. Children born under stronger gravity would grow up considering this difficult world completely normal, never realizing their ancestors once moved with astonishing ease. What if Earth's gravity doubled? Civilization wouldn't vanish overnight. Most of us would survive the first day. Many would survive the first year. But almost every system that quietly supports modern life, from transportation to medicine, architecture, and space exploration, would need to be reinvented. Gravity has always felt like the most ordinary force in the universe because it has never changed. Perhaps that's why we rarely notice the invisible foundation beneath every step we take. Only by imagining a world with twice its pull do we begin to understand how perfectly our own world has always been balanced.